Brian Windhorst joining me here on the show. How are you, Brian?
Hello, Rich.
How deep in trouble are the Celtics, do you think?
It's not good. It's not good. You know, they're in my mind, and I don't mean this to be insulting, they're the fourth most talented team in the East, in my opinion. And their weaknesses are very problematic. They're not a good rebounding team. And when you double-team Isaiah Thomas and can limit him, they have very few release valves to go to. This is something that was known 3 months ago. You didn't have to be an insider to see this was going to happen. Now they happen to be getting dispirited a little bit. One of the things that was the definition of this team, one of the reasons why they got the number one seed, was because they were beautifully coached and they always played hard. They played hard till the very end. And last night you see them snapping at each other, getting frustrated. And I don't want to say they quit on the game, but they took their foot off the gas late, which is not their MO at all. And, you know, you look at them, they're going to have to really thread the needle to get back in this series and really have any sort of playoff run.
Well, you know, the conversation, we're already having it here, and we're hearing about it, that the Celtics, if they lose this series, certainly to this team, that they could have maybe avoided this by trading for Jimmy Butler. Was that a realistic possibility for the Celtics at the trade deadline, Brian?
I mean, they talked about it, but the problem when you get into this is, like, did the Bulls really make Jimmy available? You know, I mean, you could probably get both sides in here. They could give you a case. You know, my thing is, let's say they didn't trade for Jimmy Butler. I'm surprised they didn't do anything to upgrade this team. Everybody around them, the Raptors made 2 trades. The Cavs made a couple of moves. The Wizards made a couple of moves. And I think they were behind them in pure talent at the start of that. They really have played the long game here. And you know, in 2 years, they could end up getting the number one pick in this draft, and they could take a player that ends up being a difference maker. They could end up making a major free agent acquisition, and they could be set up in 2 years to be a dominating team for the next 5 to 7 years. But I don't know that that's going to be the case. I know that draft picks after the fact have less value. For example, a year ago, they had the number 3 overall pick. They probably could have traded that pick. They might have been able to trade that pick for Jimmy Butler a year ago. Now the number 3 pick became Jaylen Brown. Now, some people think Jaylen Brown's going to be a really nice player, but you couldn't trade Jaylen Brown today for Jimmy Butler. So they are playing the long game, and they've elected to do it, and I wonder if that plays into what their real expectations of this playoff run are, if they didn't feel that this team was worth investing in the short term.
I love that. A draft pick is more valuable until you personify it, is what we're saying.
That's life, though, isn't it? The unknown is always has more valuable than the known.
Well, it's like buying a car, too. The car looks great in the showroom floor, and then you take it out, and it automatically depreciates.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Brian Windhorst joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Is Durant hurt? Is Kevin Durant hurt? He's questionable already for tonight's game, according to Steve Kerr.
Well, I'm not buying that it's a cramp. I'll tell you that. You know, if you have a cramp, you know, you're fine in 20 minutes, or at the very least, you're fine in a day. He's missing practice and he's questionable, and it's in the same leg that he had the injury in. So one of the things you see happen all the time in basketball, guys who have compensation-related injuries. I mean, it's one of the most common things you see. It's one of the things that the trainers of today monitor and keep an eye on as close as possible. Now, I don't know everything that's going on, so they say it's a cramp. Okay, if it's a cramp, then I'm sure it's not a big deal. But if it's not a cramp, if it's a reaction to him coming back too fast, if it's an injury that is created because he's putting stress on some other part of his leg to compensate for that injury that he had, then it's more serious. I'm sure they know, but they haven't told us yet.
Brian Windhorst joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How do you see Oklahoma City, Houston playing out? Similar to game one?
It's a bad matchup for the Thunder. I mean, obviously their second best player, or their second best perimeter player, is Victor Oladipo. He had a horrible game in game one. He was 1 of 12. Unless he starts playing better, it's going to be moot. But the problem is after Russell Westbrook, the real advantage that the Thunder have are their size. They have great big men. And the problem is when you play Houston, they spread the court out so wide, and they find the weak spot, usually the big man who's a little slow, and they jam them in pick and rolls, or they move him way out away from the basket, and they just can root that guy out. It's a really bad matchup. I hear your poll question about which series will go long. It's going to take something special for the Thunder to extend this series. It's not the best team for the Thunder to play in the first round.
So then, why don't you answer a poll question, Brian Windhorst? Who do you think is the series most likely to go 7 in this first round?
I do agree with the crowd. I think it's Raptors and Bucks. I'm waiting. This could be a special moment for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Everybody needs to learn how to say his name. I believe he will replace LeBron James as the greatest player in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 years or 3 or I don't know, but to me, he is an MVP of the future. And this is his 4th year. It's the first time he's in a playoff series where he's got a chance. And he had an incredible game 1. Didn't play so well in game 2, but I'm waiting. This could be his arrival where he announces that he is a force to be reckoned with.
I've been saying, I love this. I've been saying this the last couple of days too. But obviously, I might be accused of being a bandwagon jumper because I haven't watched a ton of Bucks games. But
no,
anytime,
you have there's plenty of room. Come on.
I mean, do you think he's top 5 right now, Brian?
I voted him 5th on the MVP ballot. I did.
I'm with you, man.
Wow. So yes,
statistically, he was in the top 20 in 5 statistical categories. Maybe it's not as impressive as Russell Westbrook, okay, but we've never seen that before. He's so long that the players who are strong enough to guard him aren't tall enough, and players that are tall enough to guard him who on the perimeter aren't usually strong enough. His skill development over the last 3 years has been breathtaking. He's not a good jump shooter right now. That's his weakness. That's what teams play off of him. But he's going to get better at it. I'm not saying he's going to become Steph Curry. I know he's going to get better because I've seen him get better at every other part of the game. He has innate passing ability. He's a hard worker. He wants to be a leader. And he has kind of what LeBron had. LeBron, in addition to his incredible work ethic, in addition to his incredible intelligence, he has an incredible skill set in terms of his body. He's maybe one of the most unique players in terms of size and skill we've ever seen in the NBA. He has the entire package. I am extremely bullish on him. The Bucks, they're going to open a new arena in a year and a half. When they move into that new arena, they could be a house of fire. That is a team that could really be special. They have not had good luck. Jabari Parker with the knee injuries, he may not be right until mid-season next year. They haven't had their 3-star players together. But Chris Middleton, since he's come back from injury, the Bucks have been one of the best teams in the East. They made one of the best draft picks in this last draft, taking Malcolm Brogdon, a guard out of Virginia. He's been one of the best pleasant surprises in an otherwise down draft. Son Maker, their other rookie, who is young and raw and developing. I mean, this team has a chance to be special. And I just want to see if now is their time or not. They're playing a very deep, experienced Raptors team.
That's what I was going to say to you, Brian, is that you say that one day the torch from LeBron to Giannis will be passed. Is there a shot that happens this very playoffs? Because that's who might be next for the Cavs and the Bucks.
Oh my God, I would love to see that series. The Bucks have such length. No, I don't think it happens now. But I remember it was LeBron's 4th year in the league when he had his superstar moment, which was that series against the Pistons where they got down 2-0 and he just put the team on his back and carried them. Now, Giannis is not as developed as LeBron is, and Giannis didn't even start playing real basketball until he was 12 years old. So he shouldn't be on the same timeline, but it was about this point in LeBron's cycle where he sort of figured out, he sort of gained consciousness. And Giannis is on the fringes of that. And when he gains consciousness, for example, let me tell you what I mean by that.
Sure.
So the other day in game 1, they've got P.J. Tucker on him, one of the most rugged defenders in the league, and P.J.'s playing 8 feet off of him on the block. He's on the perimeter, and P.J.'s almost barely outside the lane, daring him to shoot. That's what they want him to do. Giannis turns around, backs him down, pushes him underneath the rim, turns around with his 8.5 wingspan, and drops the ball into the basket because he knows that Tucker can't handle him like that. LeBron got pushed around for a while by the likes of Ron Artest, and guys like that early on. Then there became a time where he realized the Detroit Pistons, as rugged as they were, Rasheed Wallace giving him elbows and Chauncey Billups holding him on the outside and all this stuff, and Ben Wallace, staring at him, he reached total consciousness at one point and said, you know what? You can't stop me. And I do believe Giannis will get there. I don't know if it's this year, but I'm going to be watching to see if it is.
Brian, again, congrats on the book, The Franchise, LeBron James, and the Remaking of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Love to have you back on in short order during these playoffs.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
You got it. As Brian Windhorst.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.